Hello all. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. So I'm Dr. Latifa Berzouga. I'm from Tunisia, and I'm professor in medical microbiology and immunology, and I'm also a practitioner in endodontics and oral medicine. I'm a current president of the Tunisian section of the IIGR, and I'm also a secretary of the Africa Middle East region. So I would like first to thank the Saudi International Dental Conference for this kind invitation, even if I'm not really within you, but I think and I hope that you are enjoying this great meeting. Thank you very much for this excellent organization and to give me the opportunity to present my work on how to write and submit a manuscript for publication. So why publication? Why? Because certainly to share knowledge and diffuse knowledge and even acquire knowledge. And why not become an expert for success in the career or for being promoted as an academic for money, for glory, and not to perish. So publication, in fact, is a great project, that requires to make a plan, to communicate, to have a team work, to solve problems, to control, to evaluate costs, risks, to reach goals and objectives, of course. And I invite you to ask the following questions. Is my work interesting or related to a hot topic? Is my work adds new relevant information? Is my work fills an existing gap? Is my work fits to the journal scope? Is my work publishable in a peer-reviewed journal? So writing is really a process. Publication is a process. The writing process requires mastering your topic. You need an extensive knowledge of what you are doing. So you have to precise the type of paper to publish. You have to know that there are original papers or research papers, most importantly, and also review papers and, for example, other communications, short communication to the editor or letter communication to the editor and other studies. You have also to decide what type of journal do you want to, in which you want to make a publication. You have to know also the acceptance rate of publications. And if you want a high impact factor, you have to choose peer-reviewed journals. And also do not forget to master the language. So there are so many journals and so many publications per year. But if you have the ability to, in fact, join your topic to the scope of the journal, you can choose easily your journal. And maybe if you want to have an impact, an impactful consequence of your work. Process, you have also to know that there is a website, a journal website. You have to look to guide for authors and read carefully, and follow instructions. So do not forget and be aware of by ethics. You have to respect regarding ethics. If you work using, for example, humans or animals, and you have to carefully follow steps regarding ethics. Also, be aware, and plagiarism. For young people who should be informed about plagiarism, they can do it unintentionally. But I think that the fact to inform young people how to write without plagiarism, they can succeed to write with good English and with its own, of course. So in a manuscript, you have its structure. Generally, it's made up of the title page with authors, institutions, corresponding author with his email. Then the abstracts with keywords, the body of the manuscript, which is composed of the introduction, material and methods, research, and discussion, what we call the emerald structure. Then you have the conclusion, you have references, enlargements if needed, and some journals propose authors' contribution, conflicts of interest, supplementary material, data availability, and funding grant if existent. So I will speak about my own experience. I was a young student, postgraduate student like you, and I got the privilege to do a master in research in Paris, in France. So I did basic research regarding a hot topic, which is antibiotic resistance. And if you see here the title, if you see here the title about a new resistant gene, it's attractive as a title, conferring the resistance to this bacteria by the mechanism, what we call nucleotidation. So it was an international work with a team, and which is very important that we have published this work in the Journal of the Antimicrobial Agent Chemotherapy, and my colleague Ulan was again made the sequence of the gene that I have characterized first. So, which is very important. You have this introduction, an overview of the knowledge existing, your aim or aims, the methods, what we call the body of the manuscript, figures, discussion, and references. And if you wanted to look for the gene published in GenBank, and this paper is still cited until now. This is really a hot topic with own results. So a second example, during the 2014 IAGI General Session and Exhibition in Cape Town, South Africa, we have been a task force to work in the prevalence and severity of mold disease in Africa and the Middle East region. And this paper was published in 2015 in the Advanced Dental Research. So, of course, we have used the guidelines of the Journal of Dental Research. This is a review clinical paper, a relevant review clinical paper, which is also cited, frequently cited. So, to begin, for a clinical research and for publication, either clinical research or basic research, you have first to create a document for your publication and organize your files, different files for figures, for photos, your abstract, for example, for tables, etc. And you have to organize the files so that you can really find easily your document. So this is, in fact, how to begin to write a paper. So you have to review first the literature. And from the literature, you will, in fact, localize or find the gaps in the literature. That's how you can make your aims or objectives of your hypothesis. And of course, you will have an idea about the references. Then you have to work your tables and figures and your methods. How did you do that? Your results. What are your main findings? The discussion. What does it mean? The conclusion. Then the introduction and your aim. And then finally, in the introduction, of course, you have to make an overview of the current knowledge and what is known and why. Then the abstract and the title and keywords, references, of course, and in fact, if there are acknowledgement, and do not forget, of course, to state the conflict of interest or findings, etc. So this is an example of, in fact, different steps to make your publication. So you begin by figures. Either we have graphs, for example, or photos and table. For example, here are photos of a clinical case of clinical research. In fact, of clinical research, you have to respect size and resolution of the photos. and you have to make a clear legend of your photos. In the table, you have to make a structured table, and do not forget to mention at least percentages, for example, the p-value, and your odds ratio and your confidence interval. And do not forget to mention the abbreviations here. So for the methods, if you have several experiences, you have to make sections of your method. And do not forget to mention the ethics here. For ethical consideration, verbal and written consent were obtained from all patients after being informed about treatment outcomes. Okay, so for your methods, you have to state the ethics. And at the end of your methods, you have to precise statistical tests used, okay, for your study. Do not forget, of course, to pay attention to fonts, double spacing, the double space in fact between sentences, and the length of each section. So for results, you have in fact also different sections of your result. You have to be coherent in your results also and following the methodology. Do not insert references in your result. And in the discussion, and most importantly, because the discussion you have to discuss to compare your results, what is known in the literature, to in fact explain why you have the same results, why other authors didn't get the same results. You have to interpret, you have to convince. First, to convince the editor, to convince the reviewers, and to convince the readers. So it's important. The discussion, I think, is the most important part of the paper. And the conclusion, do not repeat, in fact, your results in the conclusion, just pinpoint the key results, okay? And the future to perform for further investigations or other investigations. So your conclusion should be concise and clear and relevant. After that, you will go to the introduction. So the introduction, after having this whole, in fact, idea of what you did, you have compared your results with the literature. You now in the introduction, you have to do an overview of the knowledge about this topic. So you have to be consistent. You have to raise the problem to solve and to show the importance of your work. And at the end of the introduction, you have to introduce your aim or aims, objectives, or hypothesis. So finally, you will have to easily compose a concise and abstract, okay? And with, of course, it's a summary of your objective, your results, methodology, results, and your conclusion. And in fact, at the end, you have to think about the title, even if you have an idea, of course, of the title, but the title should be concise, attractive, and meaningful. And after that, you choose your keywords, okay, for indexation. So finally, you have to organize your references and be sure that these references are well stated in the discussion, of course, and the introduction. And then you see here, either you have an urgent or otherwise, you have to state your conflict of interest. For example, the authors deny any conflict of interest. For example, here for the data availability statement, you have to do a statement if your data are available and if there's any found in defense of the paper in which you will publish. So finally, when you have to organize your manuscript and to submit it, you will reorganize it according the initial structure, okay? So the title page, with author, institution, corresponding author, abstract, keywords, the body, the conclusion, references, acknowledgement, author's contribution is applicable, conflict of interest, supplementary data, material, availability and findings. So once your paper is ready and you have already chosen your paper for publication, you go to the website of the journal and you will create an account. You can go for authors or you can submit your paper, okay? And you do the submission. You have to upload at least a cover letter. It is an additional document for explain how do you want to, why in fact you want to publish in this paper, in this journal. This is a motivation, a letter of motivation. Then you have to upload your in a Word document, your main document, and then or your title page first, abstract and main document, and even figures. After the submission, at the final of the submission, you will have a PDF, your document in a PDF format that you can add to your files and conserve and read. You will be notified by email, okay, that your paper has been successfully submitted, and after that you have to wait and to hope. And we do hope that each time you submit a publication, you will be accepted. So provided that you, of course, respect guidelines. So once the is within the hands of the editor will invite reviewers to review the paper, at least 2 reviewers, 2 to 3 reviewers. And it's not really easy because it's a process of reviewing each part of the author's instruction or guidelines, you know, and these are all parts of the guidelines that should be checked by the reviewers. Is the title attractive? If the abstract attractive, you know, and is the submitted paper match with the scope of the journal, the originality, the methodology, the statistical tests used, and of course, the way of discussion, your results, the coherence, the clarity of your publication, and the findings, and the impact of your findings on the knowledge, and what do you have add to the knowledge. So the decision, in fact, the editorial decision, first you have rejection. It's really sad, you know, because you wait for being accepted, but unfortunately, it's not the case. So for so many reasons, certainly, but at least you say to yourself, be optimistic and positive, and say to yourself, why not? I have to understand the reasons why, reasons behind the fact I have been rejected or my paper has been rejected. I think it's more important to think about the reasons to improve yourself and read carefully reviewers' comments and be stronger and hope to resubmit differently and learn more about submission. Then you have the second decision, major revision. Your paper is finally considered. It's important, but needs major revision or minor revision, okay? And if you did these major revisions or minor revision, you will be finally accepted. But it doesn't mean that it guarantees the fact that you have major or minor revision, you will be finally accepted. You have to do these revisions, okay? And of course, once you do the revision, you have to resubmit the revised paper. So this is an example for consideration after a minor change. And you see here what the reviewer told me the topic of this manuscript falls within the scope of international dentistry, for example, and consider after minor changes. So you have just to make the modification, decision modification, and resubmit the revised paper. So in fact, after that, you will wait for the time to be published. This is just an example because I have conserved all the steps of one of my published paper to show you, in fact, the process of writing and publishing. That, you know, it's worth publishing very high impact level scientific research, you know, as I did, for example, in Paris, when you have to deal with a master in science or a PhD, you have to be very impactful. So, which is very important here. And I have to say in conclusion that there is no shortage of ideas. Anyone can have an idea, you know, and this is very important to have ideas, but the most important thing that to translate these ideas into actions and to know how to get the sufficient knowledge to get ideas and to find the gap or the gaps and to have the ability and acquire skills, because this publishing process requires, in fact, skills, and it's time consuming and also requires money. This is very important. If you have a funding, for example, you can publish, I can say, I don't have to say publish easily. It's not that, but with the money, you can buy what is needed for research, you know. So it's very important as an IHR member and mostly as a secretary of the IHR General Section and IHR, of course, IHR, I mean region, to work with my colleagues, for example, on the way and the how and the why to improve the level of publications in the region and to have to consider inequalities between countries, in fact. But we have to remain positive because we are doing hard work and an important work with my colleagues, with the chair of the AMER IHR, Dr. Dima Al-Shamari, that I'm really thankful for inviting me, in fact, to share this conference with you in this session. So, it's a commitment for IHR division sections to provide sufficient knowledge for young people to get the opportunity to publish at the highest level. And we have, in fact, the experience of that in the IHR webinar on November 2021. And we have in the e-poster competition, very high level studies, research studies, clinical, either clinical or basic research. So finally, I would like really to thank you all, to thank the scientific committee of organization of the Saudi International Dental Conference for their excellent organization, for this invitation. Many thanks to Dima. I hope that we will meet in the nearest future. Thank you all, and bye-bye. If you have any questions, of course, you may ask your question and join me by my email at gmail.com. And thank you all.